The Phillies are finally in the mix for some rumors. Garrett, Crochet, Luis Robert Jr., we're looking at you. What trades can be possible for the Phillies? Plus, we're going to get into some other updates around the hot stove, specifically Juan Soto, and much more here today on PHLY Phillies podcast. Coming up soon. Are we finally going to get an exciting rumor in the offseason for the Philadelphia Phillies?
What do you mean finally?
It's happening, guys. Welcome to PHLY Phillies podcast. We've got Tyler Zulli, Jamie Lynch, myself, Renee Washington on this Friday. Fantastic Friday. Guys, I'm feeling a little bit better today. We've got some updates to get into that the Phillies have now...
There's nothing to feel bad about yet.
They've answered some of my questions and prayers, and so far have been involved in the last 24 hours in much more meaningful conversation around the rumor mill. Plus, it's the latest on the Juan Soto Sweepstakes, of course. We've got to take a look at some projected lineups for the Phillies, some financial picture. We're cutting it all down today on the show. But first things first on this Friday, how are we feeling? I feel like this week has been a little bit, well, it's been a lot in this week, obviously. But baseball specific, the Phillies now have us in a good situation where we heard some reports that came out that they have, let's backtrack. The Chicago White Sox are looking to trade and make some moves happen. They are looking to possibly move, and there's some rumors around 25-year-old starting pitcher Garrett Crochet, and also they've been saying some other names out there like 27-year-old Luis Robert Jr., the center fielder. They are actively in the market for position players. Their general manager, Chris Getz, actually was asked about it during the meetings down in San Antonio this week. He admitted he opened up about some things. He also talked about Luis Robert Jr.'s injuries, which have made it difficult to gauge his value on the market, and also how they are looking to get some value for players, positional players specifically, looking to make some moves, which leaves us to wonder, Phillies, with the White Sox looking for positional players, you have a Garrett Crochet, you have a Luis Robert Jr. Would you make that trade happen? We'll get into the numbers of their statistics this season and previous seasons. This gets me excited, Jamie. Finally, I feel like this is something the Phillies could legitimately do that would make sense.
Finally.
It's November 8th. I know.
Nothing has happened. What do you mean finally?
It's been with every day, I've been getting more and more nervous. Here's my reality for where I'm at. And this is why I was pessimistic yesterday. And this is why I'm slowly crawling out of my pessimism.
You cannot be an emotional roller coaster before the owners' meetings.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
No, you cannot. It's
we are
illegal.
in...
Throw her in jail.
What city are we in, Jamie?
Guantanamo.
What? We're not in Guantanamo. We are in Philly. And one of our Philly sports teams ever done things that we are excited about. Look at the Sixers right now. Look at the Eagles right now. Look at the Union right now. Every team. The Flyers are actually our best team.
This is a city of superstars, Renee. Everybody
wants
to be here.
Signed Saquon Barkley,
literally, it's a city of superstars.
The Phillies, okay.
Except for the Union, who don't get anyone and then fire their coach because of it.
Well, that's what brings me to my pessimism.
The Phillies are not the Union.
The Phillies right now with this plan of having, and we talked about this yesterday on the show, the plan of looking ahead to the 2026 season with their prospects who, as the Aiden Millers and Justin Crawfords and Andrew Painters, can then have a huge role on this team. I don't want to hope that the youngsters can do it. I want players like a Garrett Crochet or a Luis Robert Jr. who I know what they're going to give us, and they're ready now, today, yesterday, tomorrow to play. Don't give me this pipe dream of like, we're going to wait for the young players.
It is. I'm very happy for you that it's Vacation Friday because you need to get away from the Philadelphia Phillies for a week.
They're making me nervous.
Or it's
them.
Not them, it's you.
No, it's them.
You need a break, and the offseason hasn't even picked up steam yet.
I need people that are ready now. This team's window is closing. So don't give me this like, oh, we're going to wait for these youngsters to come along. And I love the youngsters.
Say it with me now.
No.
Juan Soto isn't happening.
I don't want Juan Soto. I want players.
What?
Okay, I would love to have Juan Soto.
I'm clipping that and putting it on.
Now you've gone too far.
You're going internet viral.
No, don't put that.
want
Don't put
Juan
that. Don't
Soto.
put that.
1 second
If
clip,
they
you're-
don't get,
you're
first of all,
getting fired from
Juan
from
Soto,
baseball
we're going to talk
forever.
about the latest in the Juan Soto sweepstakes. I would love to have Juan Soto. I will personally go pick up Juan Soto. I will take Juan Soto out to dinner if I have to. Whatever I have
Is there
to
a
do.
Mrs. Soto? She might be.
I don't think there's a Mrs. Soto,
She
actually.
might have the claws out.
I don't know.
ready to
I'm
fight
sure
you.
there's somebody.
But look, this is from Bob Nightingale. The White Sox, as you said, have openly told teams Garrett Crochet is available and expect to trade him by the end of the winter meetings, which is only about a month from now.
Make it happen.
With the Philadelphia Phillies and the Dodgers the most aggressive. From Bob Nightingale last night. This makes a lot of sense. Garrett Crochet is a guy they kicked the tires on at the deadline. They wanted too much for him. They bowed out of it. All the writing from Jim Salisbury to Matt Gelb to Todd Zalecki to Alex Coffey to everybody on the beat was like, it didn't happen, not for lack of trying. Expect this is something they revisit in the offseason. And they're going to revisit it because Garrett Crochet has 2 years left of arbitration control.
Mm-hmm.
He's due expected 2.9 this year is the estimate. Much cheaper than let me check, Ranger Suarez, 2025 cash, 11.3. So it's a significant financial savings if that is the move that's going to happen. The White Sox did say they want position players, so this might not be a Ranger for Crochet swap.
Yeah.
It could be an Alec Bohm and Brandon Marsh and some prospects for maybe a Luis Robert and a Garrett Crochet type of move. Luis Robert, I think, is at a great point for buy low.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy going into last baseball season. You're like, wow, this kid could be a stalwart of center field all-stars for a long time to come. 30-plus home runs. A pretty exciting player. Had a pretty bad year. You could be buying low there. Garrett Crochet is cheap, younger, and probably better than Ranger Suarez, or at least has better stuff. Ranger Suarez's biggest plus is that he's got a double order of onions every October, and that's not something easy to quit or to move on from. But if you're trying to free up money on a landlocked kind of payroll, you have to get creative, and this would be a creative way to save about $8.5 to $9 million if you were to essentially swap Crochet for Ranger. So I think from the smell test, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I do buy this one as very real, and we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. But I think this is the first breadcrumb. The more and more I read, and the more and more I just kind of talk to people, I think a lot of change is coming.
I hope so.
So what are you upset about? Nothing has started
My
yet.
hope versus what actually will happen are two different things. Again, I live in the reality of that Philly sports will let us
Tyler, help
down
me.
any chance they can. And so I'm going to set myself up for a low bar of expectation. And if they surprise me, they surprise me. And when you hear
That's not fun.
I'd rather than do that than get my hopes up and we go out after this offseason and there's nobody that they've added outside from one or two small pieces.
I've already been hurt in my life.
I'm tired of getting hurt
I'm
by our
ready to be
teams
hurt
here.
again. Set the bar high.
Here's what we need to know for anybody that's forgotten all the greatness that is Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert Jr., future Phillies. Okay. So for Crochet, he is projected to sign a 6-year, $160 million deal when his free agency hits after the 2026 season. There is club control. He has proven that he can be a starter. And for Crochet, he is someone that Bob Nightingale has reported is one of the most sought after players across the market right now at the GM meetings. Love that for the Phillies. We saw him strike out 209 batters in 146 innings and earned only $800,000 last season. For Crochet, at 25 years old, the talent that he brings, and also the fact that that was just his first year as a starter with the White Sox. We know that the White Sox have been obviously struggling, to say the least. And for them to have an offense that was, well, their team was the worst across the league, but offensively, to be so bad, they're absolutely looking for positional players. And that's why when you hear the reports coming out from them, as Chris Getz is saying, they're open to anything that makes sense. The right players have to be there. He's saying we're focusing on those position players' return. We can't force anything. That is clear. But they are actively focusing on the market. So when a Luis Robert Jr. gets added into the conversation, which makes for a great haul, you have Luis Robert, who just came off, as you mentioned, the injuries were there for him this past season.
And you're just playing
He
on a
played
loser
100
organization.
games this past season.
So I
He
don't
batted
judge him.
224 with 14 homers, 35 RBIs, 23 stolen bases, a .657 OPS, and a 1.4 WAR. So his stock has dropped because of the injury he picked up in April that had him out until early July or early June, excuse me. So he was dealing with a right hip flexor strain. And last year, Luis Robert was going to cost you a lot. But this year, they're
cheaper.
essentially looking to get rid of him and move on from him. And that's something Getz has alluded to. They need to get younger. They need to get more. They just need players. They're awful. They're the worst team in baseball. They need players. And
and
so
then $8.5-9 million you save with Crochet and Suarez,
Correct.
you can apply that right to Luis Robert, who's a team-friendly number. So
I
think,
it.
I think a lot of this makes sense. If you go by the Eno Saris model of pitching stuff, Ranger Suarez comes out to a 83 stuff plus, where Garrett Crochet comes out to a 109 stuff plus. So the only reason I can't just straight out say Garrett Crochet is absolutely better, he did have Tommy John surgery young in his career, so that has affected kind of his workload numbers up to this point. The stuff is clearly better. That's a substantial difference on that model. Rangers just done it on the biggest stages in multiple roles. There's a versatility there, but I think in reading, Matt Gelb's story on Tuesday or Wednesday, naming Ranger as a possibility, seeing the financial sense it would make to become a little bit more liquid. And the big takeaway here is I don't think Ranger Suarez is in their plans to extend. I think the Christopher Sanchez extension, when we did the emergency podcast earlier this year, I remember my first thought was, what does this mean for Ranger?
Bingo.
And they extended Sanchez first. So I think all the writing on the wall is telling you that Ranger Suarez is not going to be extended by the Phillies. So then it becomes, all right, how do I get value for him with a year remaining? And I think all this passes every kind of like diagnostic, check you put it through. I think this one makes a lot of sense.
It does make sense. And that's the thing.
Whether or not Robert is included with it or not, and it could be Bohm for Crochet, it could be Marsh and Prospect. I think there's a couple. It depends how it's packaged and what you do with it, but it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty is there's options that you have as well. And so if you hear that the White Sox are open and moving and they have pieces there, they have guys. I mean, you're as a team, you're looking at a White Sox team that they are a couple years removed. So it does make sense for them to get those younger players, some prospects to bring in to build for 2026, 2027. Whereas for the Phillies, which is where my frustrations come in, they need to build now. They need to add for now. And you have a player like Crochet and Robert who are sitting over there with the worst team in baseball in every statistical possible category. Bring them out of there. Give them a new opportunity. And so I'm curious in the chat what you guys would want to do in terms of a trade. Who are you willing to move on from? Who would you include in that trade with the White Sox for Crochet as well as Robert? Would you want to get both? Would you want to get? I'd say you go for both.
I want both.
I say be greedy. The White Sox are in a bad place right now. Getz has expressed they're looking to bring in positional players. The Phillies have them. Give them some younger, some prospects. Give them some talent.
Luis Robert to me is like the perfect. You played for a dog bleep organization. Like the walls were just imploding. You literally were the worst team in baseball history. So like I almost like erase last year from my memory. Like I neuralize myself and I just go like, all right, if we were having this conversation 12 months ago, the price tag would have cost you a lot more. But I mean, we had those conversations.
We did have that conversation.
We literally did. And I think we were unanimous in that Luis Robert is like a very exciting younger right-handed power bat to add to the middle of a lineup that needs a right-handed power bat.
He was coming off a 35-plus home run year. It was his first. Oh, my gosh. I'm going to throw my headset out the window.
Oh, my gosh.
Now I get why Renee's mad now.
I know.
It was coming off a 35 home run season. It was his first full healthy season of his career. Basically, it was going to it was a buy high opportunity for a team because we kind of all expected the White Sox to be bad. I don't know if we expected the White Sox to be less than 40 wins bad.
The worst team ever.
But we all expected them to be a bad team and probably move on from their larger contracts. You're talking about now a guy who did miss a ton of time, had a ridiculously high strikeout rate in 2024. It was, miserably bad.
Perfect fit.
The numbers weren't good. I think the price tag on a trade for Luis Robert this year compared to last year is going to be significantly smaller.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, as we're talking about all the accolades and success of Luis Robert and what he's shown over his career. I mean, this is a guy that's he's been an all-star. He's been a Silver Slugger. He's finished top in MVP races in the past. You look at even previous seasons from the breakout season he had in 2020 as a Gold Glove to being an AL Rookie of the Year, top candidate for AL Rookie of the Year, to them being someone that could bat .264 with 38 home runs, 80 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, and .857 OPS in 145 games with a 5 flat WAR. He is someone that I always felt like when I looked at the White Sox this season, I felt bad for. The White Sox moved on from guys, the Tommy Phams and different guys.
At the pet store and he's like, I'm going to get you out of here.
Like he's that poor pet that's been locked, that's been still sitting in the cage while everybody else is getting purchased around you. And I think that I don't think his injury is him not caring, but I do feel like when you're not happy to be somewhere, it's kind of like it does affect you physically. Whether you get sick, whether you might get a little more injured, he just doesn't want to be there. And it's time for him to get out of there. And I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if Luis Robert Jr. left the White Sox and had a clean bill of health. Just to be in a nice, refreshing, new place. Like that hip flexor strain.
Do you really want to rush back and do extra work?
Yeah, I think that you're like, I'm out from April to June 4th. Can that become July?
Come be around Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto.
The excitement of being on a winning club alone would absolutely make him healthier. So I know in the chat, I just want to buzz through these really quickly. I want to give you guys a chance to share your thoughts. Mickey Durkin's got some great points. Who are the untouchables? You're saying the team needs a shake-up. And the untouchables are for the Phillies. We're not even forget the prospects for the Phillies.
Untouchable because the Phillies want to protect them, or other teams don't want them.
So Mickey is saying Wheeler, Harper, Turner, and Nola are the only untouchables for the Phillies. I guess everybody else can go.
Christopher Sanchez is so cheap, like he borders on untouchable.
I would say he's an untouchable.
Well, I mean, nobody's really untouchable.
Listen, I'm with Mickey on that one. There's only about 3 or 4 guys.
I can't put Sanchez in that category, but it's just production per dollar.
Anybody can go.
I mean, your only 2 immovable are Bryce because he is your franchise, and Trey Turner because nobody wants to pay him what he's getting.
Yeah.
Everybody else can whatever.
Kick rocks.
I'm kind of down for a monumental change.
I feel like you're low key in the pessimism space with me.
No,
I'm feeling the same way.
Nothing's happened yet.
I feel the same way. Like everybody can go. Kick rocks.
No, I just want big wholesale changes.
I do too.
And I think it's going to happen, to be honest with you. You just got to be patient, Renee. It's not we got the owners meetings. That's when the offseason starts.
I'm a Virgo. I'm not patient. I know Chris Lemmer and you guys are talking about Tyler O'Neill in the chat. I've also talked about him because as an outfielder, he is someone that is also available, but he's another one that's had some injuries, was on my fantasy team, saw it firsthand.
Reset the counter.
Had a lot of injuries this past season, but a great outfielder in terms of his production, his at-bats. Then Steven Garrison, you're mentioning, Dombrowski said they want to see if they can get an extension done, but it's his injury history. You're talking about, I don't even know who you're referring to there. But Manny Productions was mentioning you can't see the Sox not getting a better deal if the Phillies don't add Painter, Crawford, or Miller. I mean, you don't have to add Painter, Crawford, or Miller, and you can still give good.
Miller is untouchable.
Miller isn't.
Painter is untouchable.
And to Steven Garrison's part,
to Tyler
a Starlin
Zuli,
Caba and Edward Taitt
is untouchable.
Taitt can go, is what Steven Garrison is saying. So there's options there. There's plenty of players that can.
Don't wish him away. You might need him.
Yeah, he's
catcher's one of the hardest positions to come across. This kid's barely 18. Did he turn 18 yet? I'm not.
No,
positive.
I think he's still 17.
He might be 17 until February. You don't give up on a kid that looks like he's 40 at age 18 that hits bombs and can play catcher. So no, and in the newest Baseball America prospect rankings, Eduardo Taitt is now 4th ahead of Justin Crawford, who comes in 5th. So Crawford probably expendable for the right pieces.
Yeah.
I would say Aiden Miller, though, untouchable.
Yeah. I mean, Aiden Miller, Andrew Painter, Justin Crawford.
Painter's definitely
untouchables. Starlin Caba and Eduardo Taitt are those you don't, they're in the back pocket. A Starlin Caba for sure. Taitt you're making a good point as a
Kaba,
catcher.
I think, is teetering on the edge of being a organizational untouchable.
Okay, then who are you going to move, Jamie?
Everybody else.
You're gonna have to give to get.
You want to protect your top 3.
So you're gonna give a Mick Abel.
Sure.
You think they're gonna want it? First of all, they're wanting positional players. So I guess it's Dante Nori, who they just drafted, or Griffin Burkholder, 2 outfielders.
Who both cracked the top 10. Seth Johnson came from the piece from the Orioles. He's a pitcher, but he cracked number 7.
You're not helping our trade deal here because you've got to. I mean, to give up a Starlin Caba as a shortstop.
People love Starlin Caba.
I know, but we're talking about Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert Jr. here.
Well, you have Alec Bohm and Brandon Marsh. You have major league
you're still
ready.
putting them in the trade.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fair.
absolutely.
If you have Bohm and you have Marsh, then
And
any
Ranger.
other
Those 3
plus.
all have value. So if they're looking for major league quality players in positions on the field, you have those.
Yeah.
And then you have to supplement it with some prospects, I'm sure. But that way you can protect your top 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we will see.
Tyler,
it's
does that
exciting
check out to you
times.
on the sound check there?
Well, I mean, I think that Painter and Miller are the 2 that like
Definitely untouchable.
I mean, you're to move those guys. You're talking about getting, legitimate bona fide ace type stuff. And Crochet might potentially be the guy, but those 2 guys I would not be in the running. I would not move those 2 guys for a Crochet. I'd be moving those 2 guys for an even greater pitching return. Or a positional player return if I were to move one of those 2 guys. I love Eduardo Taid. I think he's progressed well. He's 18 years old. He's he had a handful of games in Clearwater last year. He's probably going to start the year in Clearwater. Wouldn't be stunned if you end up seeing him in Jersey Shore by the end of the season and probably Reading if he continues to progress in 2026. But his timeline is probably not till 2028, 2029. You're
Too
talking
late.
about. Too late for what? You have a catcher still.
Renee will never be my GM. She has no 3-year plan. Window.
You realize?
No, I do have a
you
3-year
still
plan,
have to
no.
supplement the young talent to continue to grow your organization. And not talking about not trading them at all. But
Starlin Caba and Aiden Miller could be
Listen,
the left side of your infield for the next
I do
decade.
feel like if you can hold on to a Starlin Caba as one of your top 5 prospects, absolutely hold on to it. I'm not saying you show all your cards, but if it comes down to them saying, listen, we want to finalize this deal with you for Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert Jr., but instead of taking a Dante Nori, we want to take a Starlin Caba. You're saying we're protecting Starlin Caba in that situation? You're talking about a 25-year-old Crochet, a 27-year-old Luis Robert Jr.?
Would I do it, or would Dave Dombrowski and Sam Fold do it?
You. I don't know.
I would probably do it.
Dave's not sitting in the room with us, so I
would
can only
probably
ask
do
you.
it, but I don't have, the
That's
rankings
my
and
only thought
feelings
is
that Dave and Sam and Preston and Brian Barber, these guys know a whole hell of a lot more about Starlin Caba than I do. And everything I read about how they feel about him is very strongly and passionately.
Sure.
And I think he's a guy that's playing himself into protection. And, I think I saw something the other day in my readings that, he was considered the top international signing of his year. So, this is a kid that is skyrocketing up, the ranks here. So I think Dave and Sam's answer would be different than mine.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
If you can protect your top 5 prospects,
Not even top 5. It's just kind of like top 3 to me.
Okay.
4 and 5, you can start talking. Justin Crawford isn't untouchable. I'm very excited by the possibility of him, and they've mentioned him as a future center fielder. But untouchable, no.
Okay, that's fair. I agree
3.
in that you want to protect who you can,
And
but
Taid you want to because there's no catching.
right. Because I know we
there.
talked about it with Rafael Marchand as the backup catcher. If that does happen for him and Garrett Stubbs, let's say the flip flop, and he becomes backup, great. But you still need to have that next catcher in line for the future. So I just always feel like it's a fine balance. We protect the top prospects, but also if you have a deal on the table, you're talking about a Garrett Crochet. He's 25. Now you have Andrew Painter sliding into your rotation next season as well. The pitching alone is exciting for the future, in addition to what a Luis Robert Jr. can bring to the outfield. So let's take a quick break, though, because this conversation in itself can take the full hour. So let's pause here. Let me tell you guys about our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union, because if you want to plan for your future, you can make investments that you know will work out great. With TrueMark Financial Credit Union, they give you better rate, lower fees, and they allow you to be a shareholder and knowing where your money is going, most importantly. So you always have an idea of where your money is going. You're going to get a great return. And also, you have the ability to take advantage of their TrueMark Financial mobile app. That way, if you are traveling like myself, apparently it's time for me to go on a vacation, as Jamie and Tyler are kicking me out of here. When you're getting away, you want to make sure you can keep track of your spending. And with the mobile app, you have the opportunity to access your account from anywhere. You can check your balances. You can view your transactions. You can make any transfers, pay some bills, and much more, all from the convenience of your phone. You also have the chance to add your cards to your mobile wallet, which I love the convenience of just being able to tap and go. Plus, with TrueMark Financial Credit Union, if you are planning on saying, let's say buying a house, they have their mortgage specialist as well that can help you figure out your borrowing capacity, help you figure out how to save for that down payment, also budgeting for closing costs so that you can find the nice home for you and your family for the future, because planning for the future is very important. And you want to make sure that you are working alongside caring people like TrueMark Financial Credit Union that have a ton of benefits, from the mortgage specialist and mobile app to also having things such as their rewards points that you can earn with their debit cards and much, much more. So TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit TrueMark.com/PHLY.
And let me tell you about our friends over at Rite Aid, because it's that time of the year to get your flu shots. My mom checks in every fall with me. Did you get your flu shot yet? Did you get your flu shot yet? And she hounds me into getting it. And it's good, because I've been getting it my whole life, and you know, my body is used to it at this point. And you can stop into your friendly neighborhood Rite Aid and get the flu shot. While at the pharmacy, you can get the latest vaccines, stay up to date on others. You can even ask your pharmacist about a vaccine review or recommendation. The CDC recommends getting a flu shot every year. A person's immune system is protected from vaccination declines over time. So help protect yourself against the flu by getting your annual shot at Rite Aid today. According to the CDC, the flu vaccination can reduce a child's risk of severe life-threatening influenza by 75%. So help your family by staying protected with flu shots at Rite Aid today. Flu vaccines do not protect against COVID-19, and COVID-19 vaccines do not prevent the flu. So don't get it twisted. You got to get each one. While at the pharmacy, you can stock up on cold, cough, flu, and allergy essentials. Rite Aid has what you need to get through the season. Just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule at riteaid.com. State, age, and health restrictions apply. Ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for details.
All right. Well, as we're looking ahead to the future for the Phillies, of course, it's also very important to take a picture at the wallets and the spending and what's really financially possible. Now, obviously, it's not our money. So as we're talking here on PHLY Phillies podcast, each and every day, we're talking through some trade rumors and free agency. I do want to make note, something that came out that I was reading was that out of the GM meetings and out of the meetings going on in San Antonio, the vibe that has been kind of a common feeling is that MLB executives are feeling as though the trade market is where a lot of the changes are going to be happening. They say the trade market, as opposed to the free agency market, does feel like it's going to be more of what teams are actively involved in this offseason. So it seems like so far teams have been much more willing to talk about names than they weren't willing to talk about in the past, which I don't know if the Phillies are included in that.
Yes,
but
they are.
I'm going to assume and hope that they are. So it is great to hear
Dombrowski said it himself.
Yes, and it's great to hear that when you look at, and we've talked about this, players that in the next year or two, maybe they have 1 or 2 years remaining until free agency. I know the whole list came out of the players that are going to be free agents next offseason. So there are those teams, as we've talked about, that are trying to maybe move on from a player now as a trade candidate prior to them hitting the free agency market. So that is exciting to hear, because the Phillies do have some players, as we've talked about, that have increased their value on the market and that have other teams interest. So to know that not only in Alec Bohm, Brandon Marsh, I know Bryson Stott was brought up in the chat. You've got prospects that have increased their value, but also some of your arms. There are some great bullpen arms out there, and there are some great bullpen arms and some pieces that are coming right from the Phillies or pitching in general, like a Ranger Suarez. So when you look at what the Phillies payroll is going to be in 2025, in terms of the expectation of what's realistic and what's possible, Jamie, it does feel like they definitely, it's very tight. It's not a lot of money. We've already talked about like a Jeff Hoffman and Carlos Estevez, who you're most likely losing one, if not both of them during this offseason, just because it's going to be difficult to re-sign Hoffman, especially if he's on the market to now be a bullpen arm to starter. But in reality, between the luxury tax and all the intricacies, it's not a lot of money to play with here.
No, it's not. It's very tight. And John Middleton in the Gelb piece on The Athletic this week did say, we haven't even discussed not going into that third tier threshold, which is good to hear, but there is a reality to the situation and the pockets are not limitless here. This is now their third straight year in it. So the penalties increase and get heftier. So no reason to think they won't stay in it, but that's why, a move like if you were to move on Ranger Suarez and Garrett, freeing up like $8.5-9 million here and there in little drips and drabs where you can, opens up a larger flexibility to maybe go get that left fielder in free agency, or maybe you have to get a third baseman in free agency because you move on from Bohm. So every little bit of salary relief you can kind of wiggle out of this will certainly help. And they will replace the players that move on from Renee. They're not going to play third baseman list baseball next year. So like you just, one opportunity might give you some financial wiggle room that maybe doesn't look like it makes sense on the surface, but then you got to go out and replace that person. So you can't hyperreact to one move if a lot of change is going to come here. Because if they are going to do big changes, sweeping changes, meaning, center field, left field, possibly replace a third base, possibly, they're definitely already mentioned right-handed bullpen arms. If you're going to bring a Garrett, Crochet in, I mean, you're talking about big changes to bullpen starting pitching, infield and outfield. Like that's on the table. I think everything is on the table here.
Yeah, and I know in the chat, James Bond Flyers is saying Bohm's value will never be higher. And I know Elephant in the Room is also mentioning if I'm the GM, I'm shopping the heck out of Ranger. I think those are two guys that when you look across the current Major League ready players, they absolutely have the highest value. You're talking all-stars, home run derby, the amount of just historic performances we've seen from them this season, even with them both having a bit of a drop off in terms of the end of the season and even looking at the playoffs for Bohm, the two of them for the right deal makes sense. James is also mentioning you would trade Nola for the right deal. That's where I maybe draw the line though. I wouldn't move on from Aaron Nola, but I do think this offseason with the trade market being so big across the league, the consensus is teams are open to shopping players that they weren't in the past. Phillies get in on that because that's where you are as we talk about the all the different luxury taxes and the threshold of what they financially can possibly spend. You can get value from a Ranger Suarez. You can get a few guys for a Ranger, for Alec, Brandon Marsh as well. So I do hope, and I'm going to try to remain optimistic.
Dave Dombrowski
that the Phillies are actually going
with words out of his mouth. We are more open to trading guys now than we have been in the past.
I will believe it when I see it, Dave. I love to hear that, but I'd also love to see that, Dave, because when I hear things, and we're going to shortly get into what's going on
that for no reason,
around the league. Yeah, I've heard this before.
You think they're going to run it back?
We've heard this before. This is not our first go-round with the Phillies. I don't think we
have heard this before.
I've heard this we've seen this last season with the Phillies, didn't give us much.
Well, yeah, but last season, Alec Bohm was probably untouchable to them.
And when they were in the offseason, I'm trying to remember exactly the wording. I should go back to my previous notes about what they said in the offseason for what they were looking to do. But it just makes me very nervous because we have a history in this city of running it back with the same group, only to have a regression. And that makes me very nervous of just hoping everyone's going to be better. So that's all.
John Middleton's. Why do you not believe John Middleton?
I don't believe them.
Why?
I need to see
This is now the point of like, this is the fork in the road. Up until last season, I fully was with them in giving this team a chance and every opportunity. They know. I think it was a Gelb piece again. He did a phenomenal job this past week down at the GM meetings. Dave Dombrowski was in there the day after they lost, and Middleton got in around noon and had a meeting with him. And he was like, Dombrowski had already talked and had some hard conversations. So they knew as soon as that series ended, change has to come. And I think a lot of change is going to come.
I hope so. We all know that change has to come.
But Middleton
because
is
last
saying
year
it.
it was
Dave
easy
Dombrowski
to say,
is saying it. And you keep saying, I hope they do that.
Because saying
Why would
it
they
and
say it
doing
if they're
it
not going to do it?
to make people think they're going to do it.
No, you're setting yourself up for failure, because if you say all that and don't change stuff, people are going to be out with pickets and burning.
Because that's never happened in our Philly sports history, that we get smoke blown up our behinds thinking that there's going to be change and then nothing happened. No, I really do hope. And the Phillies absolutely need to make actual changes. Last season, it was so easy to say, well, we're going to get a full season of Bryce Harper at first base. We're going to get a full season of Trey Turner post-ovation. We're going to get better from Christopher Sanchez, which we didn't even expect this type of better. Our rotation's going to improve. There were actual things we can look at last season that they could point to as areas of development for the offseason that we were like, okay, we can wait and see. A whole season without having Kyle Schwarber in outfield. There were very specifics that we could take away that they could work on internally to run it back. But now I think we're all in agreement, and I know in the chat it's being said they cannot run it back, and I agree, and I love that they're saying all these things. I'm just also trying to keep in mind,
but why do you not believe them?
I mean, I'm hopeful.
There's no point in saying that, because it's just going to you're going to have egg on your face. You're setting yourself up to get ridiculed.
No.
Yeah.
I'm setting myself up just in case they don't. Like, them saying they're going to make moves, how aggressive are you going to make moves?
But why would you say that and then not make moves?
Because the moves could be a small thing. They can move on from a Weston Wilson, versus moving on from like...
That's not moves. That's not...
Correct.
Garrett Stubbs getting a more guaranteed minor league two-way
and
deal.
Rafael Marsh switching spots is not a move.
That is not considered a move. Those are
that's my concern.
Pieces.
I want them to make significant moves. And until I see... I live in the see it to believe it world. That's all. We'll take a break.
I am telling you, every fiber of my being tells me you're going to get a positive reaction from them.
I hope so. And I would love that.
Because there's in my mind, it's like the worst PR ever to be like, oh yeah, we're more open to changing and trading guys than we've ever had.
Because what they can do is turn around and say, we didn't find something that made sense. Or I know Stephen Garrett is saying they traded for Austin Hayes and we wanted Luis Robert Jr. or Lane Thomas. Like, they can make moves. Austin Hayes was a move. Estevez was a move. But was that a move that helped this team win? Whit Merrifield last season was a move, and I was actually okay with that move. We all were. So I know they're going to make moves. I want them to actually make moves that are significant to make this team be better. Go out and figure out a way with what you've got financially to bring in. Now we know a Garrett, Crochet, or Luis Robert Jr. is on the market. Just like we know, you look at, obviously, Juan Soto, who's not really going to happen. There are names out here, a Jerkson Profar, names out here. If the Phillies don't lock in one of these big names, I will be extremely disappointed. We all will. So I'm just setting myself up with a low bar of expectation, with hopes that I'm extremely wrong.
I think you will be.
I'm gladly will be wrong.
Okay.
Let's take a break and tell us about some of our other friends. I will take a quick break because this conversation itself could be 3 hours long. Also, the Phillies will do significant moves this offseason. They will make significant moves. The end.
And you can make significant moves this weekend in the boudoir, the bedroom, Boner Town with Blue Chew.
No.
There are things that are going on with Blue Chew that you need to find out about and learn about, because we've got a special deal for our listeners right now. You can try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 for shipping. And Blue Chew tablets are made right here in the U.S., and they're prepared and shipped directly to your door. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. The process is simple. Just go to BlueChew.com, Sign up, consult with one of their licensed medical professionals, and you're approved. You'll receive your prescription within days. And the best part is it's all done online. You don't have to go into a doctor's office. You don't have to have awkward conversations, and you don't have to wait at the pharmacy for your pills. So Blue Chew tablets right here in the U.S. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead and be ready whenever an opportunity arises. That's right, guys. Your partner will love you. So if that's BlueChew.com, use promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast.
I just want to say hi, Mom. I know she's watching. So
I'm going to leave that one alone.
No.
You made it weird, not me.
Hi, Mom. Sorry, Mom. But listen, if you want to do and join us for some fun and exciting things here at PHLY in terms of our events and the access that we have, we just had our own diehard offer that hopefully a lot of you guys, I know some of you in the chat mentioned you were able to take advantage of our discounted diehard rate. So I'm so glad to hear that many of you have been able to join us in our community here at PHLY to get access to all of our articles, all of our film that Fran Duffy's breaking down, as well as all the exclusive things that we are offering here. Plus, we have some great events coming up. We have our Sixers, Eagles, and a Flyers event coming up shortly that you guys can check out. We have a wide range of things, such as the Flyers live show and watch party that's happening tomorrow, Saturday, November 9th. We also have a Flyers Suite Takeover that's going to happen in January. The Eagles have their watch party and live show November 10th as the Eagles take on and hopefully demolish the Cowboys. And you can check out all those details on the tickets and getting started and sign up to attend. When you look at our watch party this Sunday, $15 tickets get to a Coors Light pitcher and a raffle entry because we're going to have some giveaways at all of these events. We're going to be giving out some memorabilia. We'll be giving out some great stuff for you. So hang out, party at the Rook with us with the PHLY Eagles crew as the Eagles take on the Dallas Cowgirls, and you guys can enjoy that. And Jamie, you'll be there hanging with the squad as well. So you guys get to come have some fun with us at PHLY. Check all that out and much more at allphly.com. The events are phly.com/events. Of course, as you can get started today as a diehard and also have a chance to sign up and attend our event as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Sunday, the Rook and Manioc, and then Friday night I'll be with the Sixers guys at Tiernanog, right above Suburban Station in downtown Philly.
Fun times.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
It should be a fun time. And it's always a fun time here at PHLY as we're live on PHLY Phillies podcast. Hopefully and optimistically talking through the offseason. I am also intrigued and continuing as we're all watching the rest of the league and what they're doing, specifically the Juan Soto Sweepstakes. It is day, I lost count, 9 of the offseason Juan Soto Sweepstakes. Today's Friday, so yes, day 9 of the offseason Juan Soto Sweepstakes. And here is the latest that we have on Juan Soto. And no, for those of you like Vince that have the Juan Soto bubble and hopes and you know,
he's a Met. Juan Soto, you are a Met.
Juan Soto is absolutely most likely going to the Mets.
You are a Met.
Yeah, it's okay.
I've already come to terms with it, and I think you should too for your mentals.
I'm good.
Wait, what happened to the Jamie that was yelling at me for saying that 4 weeks ago?
I've always been there. You know, I've said Steve Cohen was just going to write a blank check. Like, he is not going to be outbid.
So
it grew like 2.5% the other day. So I went from sub 5 to like up around 7. I'm probably back down to 6.5.
Okay.
Which is more or less no chance.
Pretty much. So here's what we know from Juan Soto in the latest around the Juan Soto Sweepstakes. Mets owner Steve Cohen is flying out to meet with Juan Soto and Scott Boras next week. That has been an in-person meeting set up in SoCal. That's going to be happening next week. That was reported from a few different sources. In addition to that conversation, we don't really know if Boras and Cohen are going to get into conversations around or plan to meet with any other players. That's also been kind of leaked out there because we know Scott Boras does also represent some other free agents, Pete Alonso, Corbin Burns, Alex Bregman, Blake Snell, Sean Manaea.
It's the polar opposite.
Ha-Sung Kim.
I still can't believe those Boras quotes.
We don't know if Steve Cohen and Scott Boras are going to meet and have any other players involved. We know the Juan Soto meeting is happening in Southern California. Juan Soto is most likely going to the Mets, guys. If he does not go to the Mets, we'd all be surprised. So with that, the Yankees have also been putting in some plans of their own because they are planning to lose Juan Soto. They now have been able to, of course, with Garrett Cole staying with the Yankees and now remaining on the same 4-year, $144 million deal that he originally opted out of. They've got him back, but they're also looking, we mentioned, Pete Alonso was one of the names that was brought up with them. Corbin Burns is actually someone that's also been connected to the Yankees. They are very actively involved in a few names, including Anthony Santander. So there's some names that between the Yankees and the Mets.
Power hitter is about to get paid.
Yeah.
Santander, we've talked about here as a fit. Not a great fielder by any means, but he's a power hitting switch hitter, which is very baseball horny. I mean, I don't even when you think switch hitting power hitter, like who's the last guy that comes to mind here?
Chipper Jones.
Yeah. Before that, like I'm trying to think.
I mean, Mickey Mantle's the big one ever.
Sure. Modern day, I was more thinking, but like they're unicorns.
Yeah. They're a beautiful thing to have.
Yeah. So, I mean, Anthony Santander is going to cash in. He's done it for 3 straight years. He would be an exciting piece for me, but it feels like financially he may be above what they're looking to pay for a left fielder.
That's the truth.
The creativity.
I mean, the modern one is, I mean, it's not the power to like 40, 45 home runs, but it could be. It's Francisco Lindor.
Yeah. And he's an MVP candidate every year. You're right.
And the greatest hitting pitcher of all time, Carlos Zambrano.
So Anthony Santander would be cool, but probably going to get paid.
So this is the interesting thing because obviously Juan Soto is a big name on the market that everybody is talking about. Everybody is keeping an eye on. The Mets and Steve Cohen with his billions of dollars seem to be the front runner, but we do also know there's a natural trickle down effect that will happen as soon as, especially once the Mets or whoever signs him officially, that you're going to see the rest of the league now replacing. I know it was brought up in the chat. Essentially, if the Yankees are looking at Pete Alonso as a Juan Soto replacement, obviously not a direct position replacement, but in the sense of the offensive production, because they do have some flexibility in who else they move out to the outfield. Then the Mets take Juan Soto. What else happens? John Heyman and John Morosi have both mentioned some names at the Yankees specifically. Again, Corbin Burns, Blake Snell, Max Fried, but they're also
I think
considering names Tanner
Mets,
Scott, Jeff Hoffman, Carlos Estevez are some possibilities as well. So it feels like the Yankees are a team that also is just looking to shop for everyone because they're looking at starting pitching, bullpen arms, and of course, if you're losing Juan Soto, you got to replace the massive hole that Juan Soto brings to your lineup.
Yeah, and with Giancarlo Stanton hardly being able to move and Aaron Judge's postseason failures, that's going to be a tough sell if he goes across the city to the Mets. Oof. Like Yankees, Hal Steinbrenner, we'll see. This is an opportunity for him to back up his, the past couple of years he's talked about, like, we can't spend like we have in the past and we can't buy titles. We have to, like, keep ourselves in check. Now he's kind of up against the griddle because Juan Soto was your best player by far on a World Series run. And by the way, did you guys see Joe Kelly just absolutely eviscerating the Yankees? Joe Kelly from the Dodgers went on a podcast. Was it Talking Baseball? He went on somewhere and he was like, yeah, we knew the Yankees sucked. Like, they were like the 9th best playoff team. We basically knew, like, if you just put the ball in play and force them to make mistakes, they couldn't handle it.
Yikes.
Like, he just eviscerated them. He basically called them like a beer league softball team. Because like that was our beer league strategy, was just like, well, just put the ball in play and force the extra. Like, if there's an opportunity to take an extra bag, take it, because that team can't make plays. And that's what the Dodgers said.
Technically, they weren't wrong, though.
No, they weren't. And they pointed out Jazz Chisholm in particular. He didn't know how to play third base.
Yeah,
he was never like backing guys up properly, and they just made dumb decisions on the base pass. He just basically said the Yankees were a dumb team. So anyway, back to Hal Steinbrenner. It'll be interesting to see if he actually does pony up and spend here, because he kind of needs to.
Yeah, definitely. And again, there are other teams outside of the Yankees, Mets, and Dodgers that have started creeping up in terms of the rumors. Now, the A's have mentioned they're not going to discuss rotation moves for Mason Miller. Their GM, David Force, said at the time they were originally open to building him back up as a starter, and that doesn't seem to be on the table So they're not open to conversations. They're not talking about moving him back into a starting role, but they are also, it looks like, not interested in just rotation moves for him in general. But the Reds are a team that's been sneakily looking and making some conversation. The Red Sox, not the Reds. The Red Sox are a team that's looking to be top in the markets, shopping for some starting pitching, as well as some other positional players. So much like the Yankees, much like the Dodgers, they too have actively been very much caught up in the names of like the Corbin Burns, Blake Snells, Jack Flaherty, Max Frieds, Nathan Eovaldi's, but also Mr. Teoscar Hernandez in terms of some power hitters. So I know John Morosi came out with that nugget about the Red Sox and Teoscar Hernandez, as well as even the Orioles.
Yeah, that would make sense. The Red Sox, John Henry. I have a buddy who's a Red Sox diehard, and the fan base hates John Henry right now because the Red Sox look like they were prime, and they probably overperformed this year. So it would be a good time to go out and spend. They've just been slashing spending on the team for like the last 7-8 years.
Yeah,
I mean, they gave away Mookie Betts for Alex Verdugo. I know. Like you should be in prison. So it would make sense that they start to spend again. So yeah, I could see that making sense. They need some help and they have money. So go spend it, John Henry, you coward. If I was a Red Sox fan, I'd be furious too.
You got to spend money in this league to keep up with the top teams.
3 of the 4 final teams in this year were $300 million teams. That's not a coincidence.
Yep.
It sucks if you're a mid-market team.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Right now, we are naturally seeing there's the teams, the Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees that can afford to spend insane amount of money, and then there's there's like a gap. The Phillies are in that gap, or they're spending money, but it's not nearly Mets and Dodgers level. And then there's the bottom of the league that just is like scraping together pennies trying to keep up with the big spenders. So you have to be able to spend money or creatively find ways to acquire talent on your team. And I am still hopeful. As we are wrapping up the show. We do want to look ahead, though, because the future for the Phillies, especially in 2028, could be very interesting.
Yeah.
Tyler did stumble onto this lovely 2028 projected roster for the Phillies. Looking ahead, this was out of Baseball America that they put together with the Phillies rankings. They had a list of who they anticipate would be on the Phillies 2028 lineup. I'm going to get your guesses in the chat of who you think is going to be on their lineup in terms of positional players, but also their starting pitching rotation, as well as who would be their closer in 2028. Now, we had a chance to look at this. There were some surprises. Definitely, because this list is, first of all, it's only 2024. We're talking 4 years from now. A lot can change by 2028. This also is something that's going along with all of our conversation around what they will do this offseason. Some of this contradicts what we think they could do this offseason.
Yeah.
Of having some of these guys in the lineup that we anticipate could be moved. But I know Chris Lemmer is saying Painter, Wheeler, Nola as the starting pitchers. You are correct on 2 out of 3 of those. Steven Garrison saying Aiden Miller's in the lineup. That is correct. They do have Aiden Miller as a third baseman for this 2028 lineup.
Yeah, and your closer guess is wrong there, Chris. It is not Devin Williams, although that would be pretty cool. Is the guy currently on the team?
And Steven,
drum roll.
But Steven Garrison got it correct. Orion Kirkering is listed as the closer in 2028. Right. So we've got Aiden Miller at third base. We've got Orion Kirkering as the closer. We have Aaron Nola and Andrew Painter as your 1 and 2 in the pitching rotation for starting pitching. So not Zach Wheeler in 2028, because of course with his extension, it actually runs him through 2027, I believe is when he's done, right, guys? Isn't it?
Foam?
No, Wheels.
Wheels signed.
Because Nola's is 7 years to take us through.
I think so. 26?
And I think Wheeler is the year before.
Yeah, I think he's, yeah.
So there are some surprises here. Now, Bryce Harper is still listed at first base, and Trey Turner is at second base, actually, not at shortstop, because there is a new youngster that they have slotted into shortstop here. So Bryce Harper at first
27
base.
is Wheeler's last year.
Okay, that's what I thought. So by 2028, Zach Wheeler would, that's weird to think about.
It is weird, but Andrew Painter will carry us. We have a new ace. He is the ace now.
He is the ace now.
2026. 27.
So they have listed, do you have the actual graphic though, Tyler, now that I think about it, to show?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Oh,
I'm
no.
sorry.
Oh,
Give me
no.
Tyler's losing it back there.
I'll tell you guys the story after we're done this conversation. I don't want to derail it.
Oh, it's not safe for the air?
Oh, no, it is. It's a funny story. I just don't want to I don't want to derail this conversation right now. So I'll pull this graphic for you in just a second.
The curiosity is killing me, but okay. I'll wait 6 minutes. All right, so I'm going to try to be optimistic here, be positive, Patty, to close out the show, because you guys aren't going to have me on the show for an entire week, and, it's going to be sad. I don't want to leave you guys on a sour note.
Well, this projected lineup is just that, Renee. It's just projected. It's somebody at Baseball America's best guess. This is not reality.
I am optimistic in the future for the Phillies because in 2028, their lineup could look like this. Mickey's got everybody on Blue Chew, which is wild.
Hell yeah. Blue Chews all around. It's Friday, boys.
What do you think? I'm not going to ask the question. I'm going to save that for after the show also. Okay. Eduardo Tait as the catcher. So Tyler's guy, Tait.
Number 4 prospect now, according to Baseball America.
Yeah.
Jumps Justin Crawford, starting catcher, 2028.
So Bryce Harper.
And he'll be what, 22 at that point?
Yeah, no, literally. He'll be finally able to, he'll be like a legal guy, finally.
He'll literally be 22 or 23.
Oh my gosh, wild. So they've got Bryce Harper at first base, Trey Turner at second. They've also got Aiden Miller as the third baseman with Starlin Caba as the shortstop, Justin Crawford in left field, Johan Rojas center field, Griffin Burkholders in right field, so no Nick Castellanos. And the DH is none other than Alec Bohm, Mr. Home Run Derby himself. And the starting pitching is in order: Aaron Nola, Andrew Painter, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, Moises Chase, and then Orion Kerkering as the closer.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Bohm and there's 3 that surprise me.
Yeah.
And it's Bohm, Rojas, and Ranger. Those are the 3 that surprise me.
Yes.
Because those, I think, are 3 guys that are very on the table right now, let alone in 2028. Rojas would have to take, we all know what he is defensively, so I just want to preface this for the last time. When we talk about Johan Rojas, can we all just assume that everyone knows the baseline defense is out of this world?
For sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Offensively, he would have to take some serious strides to still be playing center field in 2028.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing, too, for me, guys, and we've talked about this before, I have said this plenty of times where I think that Aiden Miller is a third baseman at the major league level.
He looks like a third baseman.
And a lot of people seem to tend to agree, with the exception of maybe the Phillies and Aiden Miller.
Well, you keep him at shortstop to keep his value the highest.
And totally
That's
understood.
fair.
Because if you can play shortstop, you can play anywhere as long as your arm is strong.
Totally fair. So my question is, if they're going to have him play shortstop in the minors, there's going to need to be some semblance of a ramp-up period if he is to move to third base.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see it this year at some point.
I would expect to see him get
Late
some more third base time, probably at Double-A at some point in the coming year, because I think that is the natural progression for him, especially considering the fact that he seems to be, and this is just us watching video and talking to him and talking to the scouts, he seems to be a good defensive shortstop. Starlin Caba, if he's as good as people say he is an elite level defensive shortstop. They're talking Gold Glove caliber defense from a kid who's 20 years old already. To me, it just seems like an obvious move that Aiden Miller will eventually transition to becoming a third baseman as opposed to being a major league shortstop.
Especially if he's got pop.
And I was going to say, I think that's the reality. If you're going to have Starlin Caba as your up-and-coming shortstop talent, you don't need Aiden Miller to also be a shortstop. Now, if he can get some minor league games at shortstop, doesn't hurt. But I do agree that ultimately he's probably going to be a third baseman. I know he's been versatile in general. Wherever they play him, he's ready to go. He can play there. But I do see him as a third baseman and another power hitter they can add. Plus, to your point, Jamie, Johan Rojas by 2028, that says that there's a lot of offensive stride that he would have to make to still be in the lineup as a starter. in 2028. And with this offseason alone, let alone next few off seasons, Alec Bohm and Ranger Suarez still on this list would say a lot about what this team does or does not do if they are still here in 2028. So yes, I know it's exciting times. It's nerve-wracking times. Mopar, so sorry that you missed the show.
Come on, Mopar, 11 a.m. every day. Let's go.
Literally every day,
Focus
Monday to
in.
Friday. Lock in, put it in your calendar, put it in as a reminder, whatever you have to do. Just to go off of that 2028 roster, Chris Lemmer, you're saying that Ranger will be gone, and no to Rojo. It's not Rojo. It's at a Yo-Ro. And then also Elephant in the Room is saying, if you need positivity, look no further. You're saying you would rather eat a bowl of cigarettes than watch Rojas until 2028. Oh, that's awful. Oh my God.
I just got nauseous.
Yeah. I shouldn't have read that out loud.
Oof.
And then
No filter.
No filter whatsoever. And then Steven Garrison's sharing his wish list. It is almost the holidays. Share your holiday wish list. Your wish list is depending on what trades, but Robert and Crochet, and then or sign O'Neill or Santander if they miss on Soto. Let Alvarado go. Resign Hoffman and sign Tanner Scott. That's a lot of moving around there. So very, very interesting. There are options here, guys, and hopefully after...
It's going to happen, Renee. Change is coming.
Change is coming. You're right. It's happening. One way or the other, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Something's going to change with the Phillies. Everything will be fine. This is fine. But as always, we have events this weekend you guys can check out with the Flyers, the Sixers, the Eagles. Make sure you sign up for those. What is on my hand? Sign up for those events on our website at allphly.com/events to hang with Jamie and everyone else. And that's it for us on this fun, fantastic Friday. Let's keep the optimism train going. Next week, it'll be
this
Jamie.
is optimistic, Renee? Today?
Yeah. Next week, no, I'm working around. Today I was better than yesterday.
It's getaway day for you.
It is getaway day for me, so it's time to go. For Tyler, Jamie, myself, Renee, we'll be back here Monday through Friday, every day, every week, 11 a.m. Next week, the guys got you as we'll be continuing to talk through here more on PHLY Phillies podcast. I've got some PTO coming up my way. I won't tell you where I am or what I'm doing until I get back. But other than that, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next time on PHLY Phillies podcast. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.